So hi, everybody. And as Radhule said at the start, I'd like to share with you some ideas about self-care um, at times like this, how we can take care of ourselves in these times of so much stress and so much uncertainty and so much fear. Um, And I want to share with you some ideas that I'm actually going to be sharing this time tomorrow evening. I'm going to be teaching with some of my colleagues from the palliative care team in the hospital. We're going to be doing a teaching session with the medical residents. So these are the young doctors who are really at the very front line of caring for patients in the hospital and cottage hospital with COVID-19. They working with the nurses who are on 12-hour shifts, in the intensive care units, and truly the front line. And I've thought more than once of the similarity between them. They're just so young in a way, and also so selfless and so courageous, and just so much doing their job and really trying to help in the best way they can. And I'm reminded of how I felt about the firefighters here in Santa Barbara during the fires that have swept through here. Just this admiration for these folks out there on the front line. But so they're subject to even kind of in some ways more acute and greater stresses in their everyday at the moment. And so tomorrow evening we're going to be sharing with them ideas on how to care for themselves, so that they're not overwhelmed, and so that they don't burn out quickly. And so I wanted to share with you some of the ideas I'll be sharing with them tomorrow evening. And those of you that were with us yesterday morning in our meditation session will know that I shared these ideas then too, but I tried to share some slides from PowerPoint, but yesterday I didn't succeed. So I hope I'm going to succeed right now. And while these ideas and the languaging around them, you can see, are kind of aimed towards healthcare professionals, I think the ideas, I think you'll totally understand them, and that I think they're totally relevant for all of us, not just medical professionals. So let's just go to bring in, let's see, how can I do this? There we are. So I hope you can all see that. I don't know if there's some way I can just do that away for now. Okay, so resilience in these times. And what I want to present are three different models of self-care. Three different models of self-care that are complementary, and each of them has a specific role and a time and a place when it's most relevant. So let's just begin. Okay, let's see. So the first model is the practical model of self-care. And this is how we all take care of ourselves every day without even thinking of it, perhaps, as self-care. And so, in terms of healthcare, this has to do with kind of two things. The first is good boundaries. And good boundaries are meaning good in the sense of protective. And so in a healthcare setting, that's something like one's professional persona, perhaps, symbolized by the white coat and the stethoscope, which sort of acts a little bit like a coat of armor. It's protective. But there are other kind of boundaries that we need to keep in professional settings, like being sure, not to stay on way after time when we could leave to go home in the evenings, not bringing our work home with us if we can avoid it, having good boundaries like that. But what does that mean for those of us who are just kind of living this every day in our homes? Well, good boundaries might mean not just constantly streaming the news of what's happening at the moment. Yes, we need to be informed about what's happening and very much keep in the picture, because it's such a rapidly changing situation, and we need to be aware of that. That's important. But constantly streaming news that is so full of stories that are very anxiety provoking, and potentially overwhelming. So it's okay to take a news break, for example. That's an example of perhaps a good boundary, and you can, I'm sure, think of others. So the other piece of the practical model of self-care, the first model of self-care, is that we have boundaries to protect us, but then we have practices that renew us. Important to rest, important to have ways that truly help us to relax, and exercise, and listening to music, meditating. These might all be ways that we do that. That'll be very individual, very customized to each of us as to how we do that. So that's the first model. That's the first model of self-care. The second model of self-care is the psychological approach to self-care. Let me say what I mean by that. So back in 2009, Radhule and I and three of our colleagues, we wrote this paper, which was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. And it was about how clinicians working and caring for patients at the end of life can practice self-care. And what we presented in this, we kind of acknowledged the value of the practical model of self-care that I've just talked about, but we said that in addition to that, we need a psychological model of self-care. And the basis of a psychological model of self-care is self-awareness. And self-awareness has to do with knowing who we are, self-knowledge. And we gain that self-knowledge in all kinds of ways: reflection and reflective writing, and working with counselors and therapists and spiritual guides to kind of reflect back to us. There are all kinds of ways that we kind of increase our self-knowledge, and that's really important. The second piece is mindfulness, and the value of mindfulness in self-care is enormous. And the third piece is self-compassion, that we do these practices of self-knowledge and mindfulness in a way that isn't self-blaming, but it's done with kindness and without judgment. And I don't have to talk to you all about mindfulness meditation, but this slide is in there for the medical residents tomorrow night who may not be that familiar with mindfulness meditation. That we're talking about non-judgmental awareness, or as John Kabat-Zinn talks about it, or non-reactive stillness, as Stephen Batchelor talks about it. And the values that I wanted to kind of highlight, particularly to my medical colleagues, are that mindfulness heightens our awareness, helps us to become more focused. It cultivates tranquility and inner happiness, and it quietens the mind and opens the heart. Quietens the mind and opens the heart. And it does one other thing, which is part of heightening awareness, which is really important in self-care, and that is it cultivates meta-awareness, or metacognitive awareness. And that is, we're in a situation, we're engaged in a situation, but at the same time, because we've cultivated mindfulness, we're able to watch ourselves in that situation. So we're aware that we are in the situation we're in. And we're aware when we're perhaps reaching our limit, and we're aware when we're beginning to get overwhelmed, and we're aware that we've reached a point where perhaps we need to take a step back or we need to ask for help. And so that's also, these practices of self-knowledge, mindfulness, and self-compassion are also just daily practices that are so important and so valuable at the moment for each of us in our daily lives. And then the third model of self-care is the spiritual model of self-care. And let me just say a little bit what I mean about this. And very briefly, this was a study that was done published in 2007 by my colleagues up in Montreal. And they looked at a group of 20 people, 10 of whom, all of whom were living very close to the end of their lives. So they all had a terminal, very far advanced and terminal illness, and they were very similar in all their demographics. But what was different is that 10 in the group of 20 were really thriving. They said, you know, the quality of their lives was really good. They had an experience of meaning. They felt deeply connected to their loved ones and to themselves. And then in contrast to that, the other half of the group, the other 10, were chosen because they were kind of the opposite. They were having a really hard time. They did not experience this as a meaningful time. They were feeling very isolated, and they rated their quality of life as very poor. And so what they did in this qualitative study is they interviewed those 20 people, and they analyzed what was it that made the difference. And what made the difference was the presence or absence of what they called healing connections in a person's life. If someone had a sense of bonding or a sense of connection to themselves, to others, to the phenomenal world through the senses, and to ultimate meaning, however this was understood by the individual, if an individual had a sense of connection in one of those areas, it transformed their experience. And they found themselves in that group that rated their quality of life as really good, even though they were in the final weeks and sometimes days of their life. And so, you know, healing connections to self may be self-empathy, self-forgiveness, self-compassion are all examples of that. Healing connection to others, a sense of connectedness to one's family, to one's friends, to one's community. And, you know, that's a real challenge in these days of social distancing. Of course, if we're at home with our families, we have the potential of that connection with them, but it's also possible that we can get on each other's nerves. But it's also about how we reach out and how we make connections with friends and our wider community, particularly the more vulnerable and isolated members of our community. And connection to the phenomenal world. This may be through our senses in nature. It may be listening to music, appreciation of art. It may be coming into our body experiences through yoga and through exercise. And then our connection with ultimate reality through perhaps religious practices, contemplative practices, prayer, and meditation. And so they summarized their study by saying that what seemed to make the difference was the experience of connection in one or more of these four areas. What it did was it situated the individual in a context that was greater and more enduring than the self with a little s, or the ego, thus leading to an enhanced sense of meaning and improved quality of life, QOL. So what healing connections do, it's a spiritual practice, and it brings us into a sense of a bigger context, a bigger field, and being part of that. So suffering, we could see suffering as pain plus disconnection. If we are isolated in our pain, we suffer. And it's a bit like putting a spoon of salt in a glass of water. That glass of water is going to be very salty. Whereas if we walk down this jetty with that same spoon of salt and drop that spoon of salt into the waters of that lake, and then we taste the lake water, we're not going to taste the salt. And that's healing. That is the sense of coming into a bigger field, coming into a bigger matrix of being, coming into connection with what's more than ourselves, and realizing that that's our deeper identity. So thank you for that. That's for listening. And we will now try to unshare our screens. There we go.
Well, thank you, Michael. And I thought what would be good right now is to have a bit of a compassion meditation, compassion for ourselves, compassion for others, compassion for our very hurting world right now. And after that, if you like to hang in there for a little bit and ask some questions, that would be wonderful. Or maybe you have a comment or two, that would be really great. So make yourself comfortable one more time. And again, let yourself settle into the sensations in your body. Notice the touch between your body, the chair, the cushion, the ground, and the space within and around you. Notice breath arising with the inhale, letting go with the exhale, and letting your body be breathed. And let yourself feel the area of your chest where your heart is. Breath brushing through ever so gently. And now let yourself experience the area of your chest where your heart is. Breath brushing through ever so gently. And notice what it feels like in this area of your heart. At times there's a little bit of tightness or constriction. Lightness or heaviness. At times we experience a sense of achiness, rawness, or even numbness. Just be gently aware of the state of your heart right now. And in your mind's eye, you might hold an image of yourself. As you experience yourself right now, this moment, or these days in our world, you might notice the sense of stress or anxiety, tension, utter uncertainty, maybe worry, maybe a sense of depression or hopelessness, sense of dullness or exhaustion. And see what happens when you wish yourself well. See what happens when you extend the following phrases towards yourself. Holding yourself like a friend, like a relative, like somebody who is dear to you. You might say silently to yourself, may I be gentle with myself. May I be safe and protected. May I take adequately care of myself. May I be nurtured by those close to me, and may I nurture them back. May I live within all of this with a sense of meaning and purpose. May I be kind towards myself and understanding when I feel vulnerable or stressed out. May I be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May I find the support I need, and may life rise up to meet me. And notice breath very gently flowing through, feeling the inhale and the exhale, in breath, out breath. Brushing through ever so gently. And then see what happens when you extend this well-wishing outward towards others. Those who are easy for you to like or love, those near and dear ones, maybe those you worry about, you care about a lot. You might say silently to yourself, may you be well. May you be safe and protected. May you be kind towards yourself and take good care of yourself. May you be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And may life rise up to meet you. Notice breath brushing through ever so gently. Brushing through the area of your heart. Notice what that feels like to wish yourself well, to wish another well who's close to you. How that may be changing the sense of security or well-being of your heart. And see what happens when you extend your well-wishing outwards to those many who have a similar experience to yours, those who may also be afraid, those who may also be worried, those who also worry about loved ones, those who also worry about this world. Those who also face challenges that are very difficult. Those who also feel isolated or alone, cut off. Or those who also have a hard time finding meaning and sense in this all. Wish all those others well, this whole big, huge group of people who face challenges like you do, who may suffer like you do. Hold them in your heart. And with the inhale, you might say, may I be well. And with the exhale, you might say, may you be well. Inhale, may I be well. Exhale, may we all be well. And notice breath brushing through ever so gently. Inhale and exhale, connecting us all. And extend your well-wishing one more time, even a little further. And include all humans, those close by, those far away, those who live in the furthest corners of this world, those who live especially in these times, where it's dangerous or crowded, where there's illness or violence or danger or whatever there may be. May we all be well. And also, let's wish those well who put themselves in danger on behalf of others. Those who are helpers, healthcare workers, therapists, those who work hard in places that are not safe to provide food and goods for others. May we all be well. And let's include other than human being, the earth, the waters, the skies, animals, everybody who shares the space of the world with us. May we all recognize and remember and feel all our interdependence. May we all know that we are in this together. May we all take care of each other's hearts and bodies and souls. May we all be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May we all find the support we need, and may life rise up to meet us all. May the benefits of this meditation go out into the world and beyond. May everyone be included in our care. With each inhale, wish yourself well. And with each exhale, wish everyone well. Everyone and everything. May we all be well taken care of and free. Thank you so much. And I was wondering if maybe there are questions. You could either raise a hand or type in a question. Let's see.
Just unmute.
Unmute.
Somebody, if you have a question, you can just unmute yourself and ask it. If you can.
Let's see if there are. Yeah. So
I just had a comment.
Yeah, please.
I've had have not been a part of a Sangha for the 20, 30 years that I've had a mindfulness meditation practice. And I just want to say that it's really a profound and delicate texture because I feel connected to everybody. And I feel as if I'm one cell in the totality of everything, and being together with our breath together, I feel like I'm discovering different textures with who I am, and I just feel so deeply grateful for the experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was wondering if there may be questions for Michael in terms of self-care. I know it's hard to ask a question on Zoom, but
Maybe more, not so much questions, but somebody might have some comments or things they would like to.
I don't have a question, but I got to. Oh, you can go first.
No, go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Okay, I got to. I'm grateful that I got to hear that presentation twice and see it with the PowerPoint, because it really like hit me the second time really well. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say I really appreciated the PowerPoint.
Thank you, Carolina. Thank you very much. Well, we have to learn to ask questions even on Zoom. It's hard, but just give it a try. Sarah.
Michael, do you work with the spiritual care team at Cottage?
Uh-huh. We do. Yeah, very much so. Do you know the spiritual care team at Cottage?
Well, I did the Raggedy Ann thing with Karen Fox for a while, and my son-in-law is chief of staff there. I would like to do more, not right now especially, but yeah, that's great. It's wonderful that we have that spiritual connection for patients at their time of need.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
I don't know if you know Brad Calhoun. He's one of the chaplains, and he's very much an honorary member of our palliative care team. He comes along to our meetings, and we work very closely together. He'll actually.
Who is that? I had trouble hearing the voices on this a little bit.
Oh, okay. I was just saying one of the chaplains, his name is Brad Calhoun.
Oh, yeah.
He's very much, we work very closely with him, particularly in palliative care. And he'll be teaching with us tomorrow evening when we're teaching, with the medical residents. He'll be there.
Nice. And then my friend Susanna Rake, who's also a minister with me, I'm an interfaith minister. She just started doing chaplaincy there.
Oh, I know Susanna. Yeah.
Susanna, yeah.
Yeah, we work together.
Good. Yeah.
And I just think it's so wonderful in this time. There are many difficult parts to this time, but it seems parts of the world are really opening up right now where we can be interface. There are Buddhist and Christian and Jewish and Muslim and different chaplains and spiritual care workers that come together, and also this knowledge that mind and heart and soul and spirit all come together, for us to be whole, that they are not really fighting each other anymore, but rather work together to relieve suffering. Is that how you see that? Is that kind of an opening up just in the last few decades? No, It's quite wonderful.
Michael?
Yes, hi.
Hi. I was wondering how, if there's a skillful way, you talked about the importance of benefits, I should say, of that spiritual aspect of self-care. And I was wondering, is there a gentle, skillful way of encouraging someone who doesn't have that kind of a practice to explore it? I could imagine that some people might find it off-putting, but so I wondered if you had any ways to speak to people about that and kind of encourage them to explore that.
Well, Harrison, what I think is, I'm just thinking of that paper, that study that I referred to about healing connections. It's actually an amazing paper for a paper to be published in a medical journal, because it's really all about healing in the deepest sense of the word. And it's surprising how few papers there are in the medical literature about healing, even though we talk a lot about healthcare, but healing in that deeper sense. But it's really, I really encourage you, if you're ever interested, let me know, and I'll send you a PDF of that paper to have a look at it, because they talk about how for some people those healing connections were in something that one might consider very mundane. You know, they weren't it wasn't about convincing people to get involved in some kind of esoteric or spiritual practice in the normal sense of the word. I mean, it was that for some people. Some people, they came into it through meditation. Some people, they came into it through their religious faith tradition, maybe, and through prayer. Some people came into it through singing. But I remember one story in that, and it was about a guy who came into that sense of healing connection through baseball. It was his love of sports and how that brought him into a sense of connection and community and solidarity and you know, so so wherever those healing connections are, it's about exploring that and valuing and honoring that. You know, there's kind of no hierarchy of judgment around that. And one of the points they made is that if somebody has a sense of really strong healing connection in one of those four areas, whether it's to ourselves, to others, to the phenomenal world, or to ultimate meaning or ultimate reality, if we have a strong sense of connection in any one of those areas, it seems to generalize out into a sense of connectedness in the other areas. So it's really about kind of, maybe the skillful bit is listening and helping somebody to appreciate where they are connected, and then really valuing and deepening that and honoring that, and how that can actually kind of be transformative. So I don't know if that speaks to your question. But.
Yeah, it does. That's fascinating. I was kind of thinking of it more in terms of maybe some kind of a spiritual practice or organized religion, but that clarifies that it could be a whole range of things, even the Church of Baseball.
Exactly, even the Church of Baseball.
I also want to say, whoever doesn't want to speak up but type something in, you go to chat and type a question in if that feels more comfortable. Because
I was wondering, Radhule and Michael, if you have read the poem called Pandemic.
Yeah. Do you have it right there?
I do.
Do you want to read it?
Would everyone like to hear it? I don't want to hog the time. It probably is only about 3 minutes.
Yeah, please do.
Would you like to hear it?
It's a wonderful poem.
It is. I think so too. I'm glad you agree. What if you thought of it as the Jews consider the Sabbath, the most sacred of times? Cease from travel, cease from buying and selling. Give up just for now on trying to make the world different than it is. Sing, pray, touch only those to whom you commit your life. Center down. And when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are all connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You could hardly deny it now. Know that our lives are in one another's hands. Surely that has come clear. Do not reach out your hands, but reach out your heart. Reach out your words. Reach out all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, as long as we all shall live.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you so much for you all being here, and I hope we see some of you on maybe all of you on Wednesday. And yeah, and it would be I wanted to thank you so much for being there.
Thank you, Radhule and Michael.
Thank you
Have a
too.
good night.
Bye-bye. Good night. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
you.